I'm going to show you how Avalara works in Counterpoint. So Avalara AvaTax is connected to Counterpoint in the background, and sales tax is being calculated by Avalara based on either the address of your store for cash and carry sales, or in the event of a sale that's being shipped to a customer, then the sales tax is being calculated based on the ship to that is in the sales transaction. So first of all, we'll just look at a cash and carry transaction. And so we've got our default customer cash here, and I've got some preset items here just set up for demo. So the state that this is in New Jersey. And in New Jersey, clothing is not taxable. So as I add a clothing item to the sales transaction, it is calculating sales tax. And down at the bottom, you'll see the accumulation of the sales tax on all of the items that are on this transaction. So that was my first item, clothing item, no sales tax. As I add other items to the ticket, you can see down at the bottom the sales tax will accumulate. And so as I go, every time it's calling out to Avalara, and it is sending the item information, and within every item in Counterpoint, you will be adding the Avalara tax category to the Counterpoint item tax category so that it knows exactly which sales tax it should be charging when it gets to Avalara and the state. So we keep adding all of our items. We have our total sales tax here. And then when we go to our payment button to pay for the transaction, it makes one final call out to Avalara just to make sure that the sales tax for everything is correct. And so in case we've made some kind of a change that didn't update the tax along the way, and then we can close out of our transaction, pay for it, and go forward. So if this same transaction, I'm not going to go through the effort to complete it and all of that, but in the same transaction, if this were for a particular customer. So I'll add my test customer here. And this customer is still, at this point anyway, in sort of a cash and carry mode in the store. And so our sales tax did not change when I changed the customer on the ticket. If we now go to ship this sale to one of their friends, one of their ship to addresses in their customer record, I'll pick one that I know has different sales tax. So this is going to get shipped to North Carolina. So I go in and I change that, and you can see here it's being shipped to North Carolina. And when I change that, it's calling out to Avalara, and it's updating all of this for the sales tax for North Carolina. And so down at the bottom here, you can see that that sales tax has changed. So during the transaction, if you change the price of an item, if you add items, subtract items, change quantity, all of those things, every time you're making that change to the sales transaction, it is calling out to Avalara and updating the sales tax based on that information. If you have a customer that's tax exempt, I'll change it to one here that's exempt. So if I change it to a customer that's exempt, you can see down at the bottom the tax is removed from the transaction. So the way that Avalara knows that this customer is exempt is we put the customer's tax ID in their customer record in the tax number field, and then with every transaction, if there is a tax ID number, it will send that tax ID to Avalara with the transaction, and then Avalara knows that that's tax exempt. There are services that you can purchase for tax exemption with Avalara that will then store the customer's tax certificate and all of that information on file. But with our standard AvaTax integration, that does not happen. So it's reliant on having the tax ID number in the customer record, and then you making sure to have all of the customer's tax certificate information on file. We can also do order and layaway transactions in Counterpoint. So if you do an order or if you do a layaway transaction, those are not actually sales right now, so we're not booking sales tax. However, it will still call out to Avalara. It will find out what the sales tax would be for the customer the ship to, the items, and all of that it would be for the order as it is at this point, and put that in the order transaction. It is saved with the order transaction or layaway transaction. Then as you release those transactions into orders, and you can do it as a partial release or a full release, as you do those releases, it will call out again to Avalara, confirm the sales tax, because in theory you could have had a sales tax rate change during that time, and you need to be charging the sales tax that is in effect at the time of the release. Once you make that, turn that into a ticket, it will call out to Avalara, find the sales tax, and complete the sale at that point. At that point, that transaction is booked in Avalara as a sale. We can void transactions. So if you do a void transaction, and we can do a void this ticket, and if I void this ticket, of course, nothing has gone out to Avalara, so we don't have really anything to void there. But if we do a void old ticket, so that would be a post void, a transaction that's happened today, we void this ticket, it will call to Avalara, it will void it in Avalara as well, and it will show that transaction as being voided. We also can do a return transaction, so the same rules apply to a return that it would apply to a sale. So the return, we'll put our return line item on the ticket, and you will see again, it will call out to Avalara, wants to know why we're returning it. And you can see it's calling out to Avalara and calculating the sales tax for the return. So we also have the ability to do a validated return. So with a validated return, you will select the transaction that you want to do the return against, and Counterpoint will then look at the ship to address that is associated with that validated return, and will calculate the sales tax for the item or items that are being returned based on that ship to address if it was being shipped to a customer. If it was just a walk-in customer, it will then use the tax code associated with the store. I also wanted to mention and clarify that we're using an API to make live calls to Avalara to get the sales tax. This is not a batch import or any kind of a delay in getting the sales tax. It's actually making real-time communications during the transactions to get the sales tax. And I wanted to show you the sales tax reporting that you will get from Avalara. Do note that all of the sales tax reporting will come from Avalara once you start using this AvaTax integration. Counterpoint will no longer be in charge of calculating your sales tax. Even so far as to when you look at a sales transaction, the tax codes that you would normally see in Counterpoint will no longer be there. They will be replaced with a tax code that's called AVAL for Avalara. So all of your tax reporting going forward will come from Avalara. So here's a sample of a report or a screen that you can look at any point, and it shows you every document and the date of the document and the amount of tax that AvaTax or Avalara calculated. And then also we have the customer here. Some are numbers, some are names, however your numbering system goes. And it's going to show what sales tax state or jurisdiction was used for the sales tax calculation, the amount of the sale, the amount that wasn't taxed, the amount of sale that was taxable, and then the tax that was collected. So in the event of, for example, this one here, this one was a tax exempt customer, and so that's why we have zero tax showing here. So there are a variety of reports within Avalara that you can use to report on your different types of exempt sales, such as ones that are exempt because of the jurisdiction versus those that are exempt for exempt customers. And so great reporting here, and the ability to look at things real time. So as we are using Counterpoint and it's calling out to Avalara, it's using an API, and it is getting all that tax right now. So as your day goes on, it's live tax. As tax laws change, Avalara is updating the tax laws And so you're always up to date and you're sure that you're calculating the right amount of sales tax. And from this screen where you're looking at your list of transactions, you can actually drill down into the transaction and you can see all of the information in there about the ticket and the customer and you as a vendor and what address it was using to calculate the sales tax. So it literally is looking at your zip code. It has, I think it's called geo-tracking, so it knows exactly where you are. So if you have county jurisdiction taxes and all of that, it's going to calculate all that in and know that. So then it shows you all of the information line item level on the ticket. Here's all the different lines, what was taxable, what was not taxable, and all of the information. So that's really helpful if you have transactions that go through and you're questioning the sales tax that was charged. So you can easily go to this screen, find your ticket, drill down, and see exactly what's happened. And because all of a sudden now you may be seeing tax discrepancies or tax being charged or not being charged as you were used to seeing it in Counterpoint, using Avalara, you know that it's using the current sales tax laws for any state that you are shipping to. And so it's possible that something is different in the laws than you were aware of. And so now you'll be sure that you're collecting all your taxes properly and can look at this and figure out exactly why taxes were charged the way that they were.